Before, after. These hidden LEDs really set the mood. Here you're watching a movie, you can dim them down, you can dial them up, you can bounce them to a track, they listen to your voice. It really changed the game in this lounge in my friend's home. We start off with a center line all the way down the 21 feet. We had 101 inches from molding to work with, so somewhere around 49-50 inches. We used a laser level and used finish nails to put trim in that was a 1/2 inch off of the wall and 3/4 inch wide, and you can get that at any major hardware store. The vision for the wall came from a cool Pinterest pattern that Tony found, and kudos to whoever made that because it was seriously insane. We could barely figure it out where we had to improvise our own drawing, but I'd rather do that than copy someone else's. Our initial drawing had 2 main triangles at first. After taking a look at the wall, we came up with a design of 3 main triangles, 2 at the top, 1 at the bottom. We used speed squares to keep everything 45 degrees and a 6-inch plywood spacer in between the main triangles. I went through with a stud finder and marked each stud. By the thermostat, there actually is 2 studs there. After that, I took a Sharpie and I went from top to bottom and marked each spot for my pilot holes with my drill to add 2-inch construction screws straight through the trim into the studs to add extra reinforcement. At that moment, we were still improvising and we decided not to use any adhesives yet. If we would have glued stuff down, we would have been tearing drywall out later. Here you see us just 2 guys talking it out. We're wondering where we want some horizontal lines, where we may want some vertical lines, where we may want some more triangles. Here we nail the second horizontal line in place. Here we take a 3.5 inch spacer to put in between the next horizontal lines. After adding those lines, here is the main focal point of the piece, the symmetrical lines and triangles. A cool part of Tony being the homeowner is he got to stay up late and add abstract focal points. I came in the next day to find this wall of art exactly what we're going for. We went with adhesive LED strips. I believe they were 10 foot long. If you go on Amazon, you can find all kinds of brands, all kinds of makers, all kinds of prices. We didn't break the bank and we got some really good quality strips. To hide the LEDs, we took a 1/4 inch thick, 1.5 inch wide lattice that we nailed flush to the 3/4 inch pine trim. That left us with 3/4 of an inch of overhang to hide the LED strips underneath. Okay, now we were working with trial and error. Trying to create the overhang, we forgot that we needed space in between the wood to actually add the strips, the LEDs. So Tony took a rotary saw and started cutting the notches out where we'd have to run our line. I went through with some Dry-X wood filler and filled all the nail holes, all the construction screw holes, and we traded back and forth until we got everything that we needed done. We could have cut a lot of corners here, but I was proud of us because we stuck to the initial plan of where we wanted the LED strips to be. It would have been very convenient to create a different light pattern than what we were dealing with, but we stuck to the plan of what we wanted. Here we take our LED strips and tack them in place with painter's tape, but we have to decide where we're going to have start and stop points for these strips. We start in the top left corner, run it through the center line, around the center triangle, and then out through the right side and top right corner. Here I start to cut the lattice. Now I have to attach this on 45-degree angle cuts. Some 45 degrees are flush with the ceiling, some 45 degrees are flush with each other, and I make sure to practice the old saying, measure twice, cut once. Alright, it's finally time to put the LEDs in place. For the project, we didn't have time to order connectors for our start and stop points. We both had a basic knowledge of splicing wires, so 3 or 4 times we hardwired our connections throughout the wall. started with a small strip here in the top left corner. Then we continued to progress down the wall. The trickiest part of this project was here in the center area. We come from the left side, we go down the V, and we have to run back up the left side of the inner triangle. On the opposite side of the center triangle, we come from the right and come back down so we can cross over the right. That sounds pretty difficult, and it was a bit of a pain to figure out, but once we got it done, we were happy with the results. From the top of the center triangle all the way to the right exit of the wall, we used a separate outlet, so here we're trying to sync both of them up. We finally got it finished, and everything was working pretty good. Once we got to that final side, we started to line everything up. We took the adhesive strip off the back and started to tuck it underneath the overhang with our fingers. And here was your finished product after one last coat of paint over the lattice.